have experienced significant grief and loss. And like many of you who are here today, we all live with some portion of grief, whether it's the loss that we have had or the loss that a friend or loved one has had. Even if grief has not touched us, it has touched someone we love. And so Light of the World Christian Church is a church that doesn't just care about how you shout on Sunday, but how life is Monday through Saturday. So I've invited JC and Dawn up here to talk to me. Come on, let's take it. Now I had to bring chairs because JC is 8 feet tall. And if he doesn't sit down, he's gonna tower over all of us. But I asked them to join me on stage to talk to me about a very special ministry that we have here at Light of the World called Grief Share. And in case you have not participated in Grief Share, or maybe you're not familiar with what Grief Share is, I wanted to invite the two of them to share a little bit about their experience, because grief does not discriminate. Loss does not it doesn't matter how much education you have, what neighborhood you live in. Grief does not care about your background, about your networks, and just because you may be in a particular socioeconomic category, that doesn't make you better at managing grief.
Right.
Just because you live in a really nice neighborhood, or maybe you have a really close-knit family, that does not mean that you are able to navigate grief well.
Right.
And so here at Light of the World Christian Church, we don't want to make assumptions about people's perfections or imperfections, but what we want to do is create resources and opportunities for all of us to evolve and mature into the brightest lights for Christ in the world. And so, amen, thank you. So Dawn, will you tell us a little bit about what led you to Grief Share?
Sure, good morning everyone. In 2017, I lost a total of 5 family members. In April of 2017, I lost 3 of them. My grandfather passed away, he was 91 years old, and then I had a cousin that was murdered the morning of my grandfather's funeral. And then 4 days after we buried my grandfather, my mother died unexpectedly. So to say that I was brokenhearted, I was shattered, my faith was shattered. It all applied, and so I saw something on Facebook. One of my Facebook friends who had lost her mother a couple months before I lost mine posted about Grief Share, and to be perfectly honest, I was desperate. I was depressed, I was distraught, and I just needed something, anything, to try to help me through my grief. And so at first I looked at it and I was like, oh, I'm not a support group person. And then I was like, you know what, I'm desperate, I'm gonna go. And so I went to the host church on a Wednesday evening, and I walked in the door and I was met with community. I was met with validation of the things that I was feeling and the way that my faith was even shattered. So that is how I came to know about Grief Share.
Thank you, Dawn, for sharing that with us. JC, would you share with us how you got to Grief Share?
Well, it was a journey of mine that I knew about Grief Share before my time in Ross, because my late wife was involved as a facilitator guide when her mother passed away in 2020 during COVID. I saw how it helped her, and I didn't know I was going to be here speaking to you now, sharing this story. But this is my second time going through Grief Share. The first time was online only, and now we're doing in person, which has been great. transitioned this year. So it's really fresh, and just having a sense of community to talk to people who share the same pain that I do, and to have a safe space to allow God to walk with you in this process. Yeah. Because you can't walk through it alone.
Right.
If it wasn't for all of you, my Light of World family, Pastor Janae, Don, Lisa, who's a facilitator, I don't know where I would be right now. So I'm really love being part of what Grief Share is doing in Light of the World.
Amen.
When I arrived at Light of the World in August of 2019, we didn't have a Grief Share ministry here. But like Dawn and JC, my life too had been changed by Grief Share. When my mom died in August of 2018, I was like, I'm a preacher, I'm clergy, I have a Master of Divinity, I do funerals, I preach funerals. I'm always supporting others through their grief. I got this. And weeks went by, and I had a girlfriend whose husband had died, and she was like, Janae, you gotta do Grief Share. And I was like, I'm good. And she hounded me, Janae, you gotta get into Grief Share. And I noticed that over time, my body was in continual stress. I was in a repetitive stress mode. I was irritable, I was short-tempered, and everything and everyone bothered me. But I also felt like I was stuck, and I couldn't understand why I had this feeling. And Holy Spirit reminded me, this is grief. Your grief has stopped maturing. You have stopped moving forward. You need help. So I went to Grief Share. I buckled down, broke down, and I went with an attitude. And I didn't say anything my first Grief Share. And I was like, I don't want to be here with these people. I'm not like them.
Wow.
They're weak. I'm strong. My faith is strong. I should not be here. So I was quiet my entire first Grief Share. I didn't say a word. I went back the next time. I didn't say a word, and nobody hounded me to say a word. But then tears began to flow, and I couldn't stop crying. Then I went back the next week, and I cried the whole session again. And I went back the next week, and I cried the whole session again. And nobody bothered me to say a word. They just passed me Kleenex. And I realized I had not breathed or cried in weeks. But it was Grief Share that helped me breathe again and cry. That's how Grief Share helped me. But I wonder, Dawn, if you would share with the congregation, how did Grief Share help you?
Grief Share helped me. I didn't have any problems crying. I cried so much my eyes couldn't even handle contact lenses anymore. But Grief Share gave me community. I'm an only child. I live alone, single, no children. And so I spend a lot of time by myself. And so the thing that I value the most in this world has always been my solitude and my serenity, my home, my sanctuary. And that flipped the script on me. The very place that I find my solitude became tormenting. So Grief Share gave me community. The other thing that Grief Share gave me is validation. Some of the topics that they covered, I was like, oh, it's not just me. Okay, jealousy was a big one for me. My mother was an identical twin. And I love my auntie, I love my cousins. I would never wish any ill on my auntie. But it was, why me? Why do they still have their mother and I don't have mine? So Grief Share validated the things that I was feeling. It let me know that I'm not a horrible person. I'm not a lack of a Christian. There's nothing wrong with God or my relationship with God. I'm human. So that's what Grief Share did for me, learning validation and community.
Look, Grief Share gave me the realization of the depth of my loss, not just my loved one, but what my loved one done in our relationship, those day-to-day things that we take for granted. She was a cheerleader, she was a supporter, she did the affairs of the home. She did a lot, and when I lost all of that, I realized the degree of my loss. And so Grief Share helped me to manage putting my life back together, giving me the confidence to do those things that she done for me. Now I'm doing them. And it also helped me find ways not to numb the pain. That is one of the temptations when you're in grief, is trying to numb the pain, trying to overwork yourself, overeat, indulge in things that's not healthy for you, not taking care of yourself, because you get stuck in the grief and you can't be present while everybody else living their lives. You're stuck. So it helped me to find ways to manage my grief and to continue to function. And it's hard. So I'm so thankful for Grief Share. I'm thankful that it helped me with my relationship with the Lord, because I had the big question, why? Why her? She was a saint. She did everything for everybody. You know, some people, they deserve it, but she didn't.
Well, sir.
But you know, that's how.
That's just true.
That's how your emotions.
Just true.
Begin to talk to you.
Just true. That's all.
I'm just being real.
That is real. That is real. Right. That's it. That is real. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
God showed me Romans 8:31. What do you say to these things? You have to say something back.
Yes, sir.
And I know that if God is for you, who can be against you?
Right.
I know that He prepared a place for her.
Yeah.
I know she is in where she would never want to leave. She's in complete joy.
Yeah.
So I'm at peace with that. Why question? And that's what grief can do for you.
That's all right.
So in case there's someone in this audience or listening online who admits they need community, they need support, how would you respond to the person who lost their loved one 10 years ago, 15 years ago, who says, oh, I'm fine now? Or the person who says, Grief Share is only for people who've experienced recent loss?
There is no timeline on grief.
Right.
There's no time limit, and it's never too late to get the help that you need. I attended Grief Share 3 different times, 3 different sessions as a participant, and the last time there was a lady in the session, and she, we go around, we introduce ourselves if we would like to, and she shared with us that her daughter had died, I think she said 19 years before then, and she shared with us how she didn't process her grief, she didn't work through her grief. She shared with us that her grief had cost her her career, her marriage, many relationships, friendships, and so she let us know that she was there because she still needed to work through her own grief, but also to encourage us that there is no timeline on grief, and that it's okay if it's 1 year, 5 years, 20 years, however long it has been. The love never goes away, so the grief never goes away, but there is a way that we can work through it and we can process it. And you will find that if you join a Grief Share group, that there will be many different kinds of losses, many timelines of loss. Maybe it's a sudden loss, an unexpected loss. Maybe the person had been ill for a very, very long time. all of those things are unique with groups, but we have that sense of community and we encourage one another regardless of how long it has been.